Hi there, Angela Fair here. For today's World Watercolor Month video, I'm just going to share with you from my hotel room here in Duluth. I'm on my way, left Madeline Island School of the Arts this afternoon, jumping on an airplane tomorrow morning. By the time you see this, I will be flying across the country on my way home to my home in northern British Columbia. So I wanted to share with you a little look at the workshop, a recap of it, and hopefully it gives you a little bit of an idea of what is created at one of these watercolor workshops in terms of community, learning, and art. So let's take a look. First, I just want to show you a look at the little goodie package I put together for my students. I always like to bring gifts if I can. And this is just a few of the product samples: my Daniel Smith dot card, Bohong paper, Hanamula paper, Rockwell paint, a brush from Cheap Joe's, a brush rest made by a friend. These are all things that I love to be able to share with my students and see their excitement as we get started, and they feel a little bit pampered at my workshops. The campus on Madeline Island is such a peaceful place. Just this little clip, listen for birdsong, and how special and peaceful it is here. Well, I thought I would record a video diary down here, but it's a little too noisy. And that's okay. Painting at the lagoon was really special. I talk a lot about how difficult plein air painting can be, but this was such a relaxing, beautiful spot that we just all enjoyed the entire afternoon. I just wanted to walk through some of the paintings that I made this week. We have one day left, but I'll get these photographed for you. I don't think we have any kind of chronological order arranged, so I'll try to start in the middle. That just makes sense, doesn't it? We started on day one with painting the meadow outside our window, and it is a really good way to kick off. And so what I really believe in is showing process, that I start with learning what I don't know, and then I find a way to take the information I have and make it my own. And we really try to work in a place of non-judgment, so you don't necessarily know something's going to be good until maybe much later down the road. Just trusting that at some point we're going to find the version that really resonates. And this one feels really special to me. From that first day, and bringing those details together. And it's interesting, I think, how different it is from that small grouping over there. And yet there's, they're all linked together. And here's another variation on the subject. It feels a little more closely linked to those smaller sketches. And then this one's got a completely different color palette. So each one has its own story, its own set of information, and its own pros and cons, really, if you want to think about it that way. I have one in my sketchbook as well, and throughout the week I've just used this sketchbook off and on. Most often when we're painting outdoors. This was just outside of the studio on my easel. And then when we went to the town park, I started out painting the lagoon in the sketchbook as well. And then yesterday we were at a beach in La Pointe, and I used the sketchbook to kick off a value study. And so it's been really useful for me for just that beginning collecting information. I tend to trust that with plein air painting, I'm going to make an awkward version before I make a good version, or maybe 2 or 3 awkward versions. And I did feel that was the case yesterday at the beach. I started this version, wasn't feeling it, and then this version definitely felt like it had the message I wanted to convey. And then I kind of started this little guy too, playing with this billboard that was beside the boats. And one thing I've noticed that I'm exploring, and I think I'm inspired by some of the sketchers on the walls of the studio here, are these bigger brush strokes. And playing with some of these sketchy strokes and leaving a little bit of white space too. That's really fun for me, and I often feel like when I create with those kind of marks, it feels like I'm making a little joke to myself, and I love that idea. On my first day, I actually took a bike ride and went down to Grants Point and took a photo there of the beach. And so this is the beach on Lake Superior and Grants Point, and another just fun exploration. And there's back here an unfinished version that didn't go anywhere, and another unfinished version of that same location here. So you got to see the one that turned out. And it was third in the process. With the watercolor class, we went to the town park. You saw the sketch from my sketchbook. Here's another version created on location, and just trying out different variations. And then I actually turned my easel and painted off to the side of the lagoon, and that's what this one is. My husband says I need to sell this one for a lot of money because he likes it a lot. And here's one more version of the lagoon. And one more version of the lagoon. I'm a rapid painter. One thing I have to mention is that fast paintings aren't necessarily better, but it is, and sometimes I think maybe I give up too soon, but I like being a fast painter, except for that means I sometimes get bored easily painting the same thing 3 times in an hour and a half, and then ready to move on. This is another view from just down the road, and here's where I got to again play with some of that urban sketching that I enjoy. I've used to feel intimidated by, and this one was just from a reference photo that I took while on a bike ride. And the house is kind of a wreck, so I got to edit out and paint only the things that I thought were cute and pretty. I also pulled my easel out the day before yesterday and just painted the cottage on the Madeline Island campus here. Aspects of this, teaching myself to paint around the white, teaching myself to paint those larger brush strokes. That feels like it's working. This little building didn't feel like it was working as well. I put a glaze of dark color over it so this would pop forward. Probably not something that I would frame, but I really feel like I put a lot of learning into that. And then here's another variation with smaller marks. Still some white space left and a lot more line. Every painting is an experiment. Another reference photo from Madeline Island. I like this little campfire stand honor box, and it was kind of fun to try to solve the problem of all those little pieces of firewood. And I did see a bear while biking on one of the roads, and so this is a little memory captured, like the starry white daisies against the dark greens. And then sure enough, as I was biking, a bear popped out of the ditch and ran across the road and looked at me and watched me as I went past, so had to capture that memory. One of my favorite paintings from this week, I think, is this one. And this is another view of Grants Point. And a series of paintings that came together to make this work as well. I was demonstrating a value study process, and that's what these two studies are. And then that came together in this version. Throughout this workshop, the goal has always been, what does my heart need? And am I willing to trust my instincts? Am I willing to take some risks, maybe? Am I willing to do things that seem like they don't make a lot of sense in the context of what we're trying to create this week? So there are washes like this one that are kind of a meditation and reminding you to trust yourself. This wash as well was very, very fun and freeing to just pour color down the page and watch it move and see what it did. And those kind of exercises not only teach you a lot about how watercolor moves and how to work with fluidity, but it just gives you that freedom to explore and feel that sense of trust that I can create something beautiful and find and open-ended and find beauty in it. Today we've got a few more hours to paint before all this has to be packed up, and we'll head to our respective homes. I was just about to go pack my room, but I think I just need to pause and watch some monarchs for a while. We were learning about monarchs not that long ago. It became up a topic of conversation with some friends, and we were talking about how they migrate and how it's not one generation that migrates down to Mexico, but 3. And how do they know? And they have different lifespan lengths because it takes so long to get to Mexico. So some monarchs live for, I think, 9 months, and some only live for a few weeks. Anyhow, I'm not going to give you numbers because I'm not sure, but you can look it up for yourself. It's amazing, though. And this is really just such a beautiful and peaceful place. And certainly I would love to be able to come back here every year. So if coming to Madeline Island and painting with me is on your bucket list, please do let me know. Consider it. Let them at Madeline Island know, and they'll make sure to invite me back so we can paint together one summer in the future. Well, it's been a long week, a really good week. It's one question I was asked this week was, do these trips feel like vacations for you since you are coming, to work and to teach? And the answer, of course, is yes and no. On the one hand, yes, I do keep in mind that I'm here to serve my students. My goal is always to be present for them, to show up and just share from what I have learned about process and painting, really to be a voice of encouragement. And my process is messy. I was telling another instructor this week, what I teach in terms of just committing your whole heart to the process and trusting that it will all work out. It's not really great for my ego because it means I have to fail my way through several versions of a painting before I hit on the resonant ones. And in just a moment, I'll share a clip of some of the paintings that I sold. Students always want to buy your best demos, and so those are going out home with some students, and some were staying at Misa to be hung on the walls at the campus there. But, it's not great for my ego to say I'm going to paint some really awkward and clumsy ones that don't quite feel right. And then through that process of experimenting through the painting, we're going to find something that resonates and feels right. And it's this back and forth of what do I think makes a good painting, and also what feels really good for me to paint. What's my approach? And as I've learned about what feels playful, what feels like maybe I'm telling myself a little joke, poking fun maybe at my desire to be a serious, good painter and getting playful with it. Sometimes it just unlocks something that's so freeing. And so I like the fact, as humbling as it is, I like the fact that I do get to share that I'm not that different from anyone else who's trying to work their way through how do I paint this subject? How do I teach myself how to paint this in a way that looks like me? And then committing to the process of finding out what that is. And I think that is what my workshops are about. Yes, there's technique there. Yes, I've learned some things about composition and design along the way. Yes, I know a lot about watercolor techniques and why watercolor does what it does and which colors look good together. But at the end of the day, every painting is a big question mark until you dive in and experiment your way through it. And I think that's what I got to model this week on Madeline Island. It's what I get to share anytime I teach here online, or especially in person, especially when I get asked a question like, how do I paint water? And we got to muddle our way through a brand new subject or something that's a little different than usual. The answer to how do I paint water is it really depends on what the water is doing, and then we start from there. We'll just close off this video here. I'm tired, I'm ready to fly home, but we'll close off the video here with just a look at a few of the paintings that sold this week as I offer a good price on my demos and make my luggage a little bit lighter. And I'll be back again tomorrow with another daily video for World Watercolor Month. The month is winding down very quickly. I will also be sharing soon some ways that you can keep in touch with me after World Watercolor Month ends, and I'm not posting videos here as frequently.
And so do keep following this channel or subscribe to my mailing list at angelafair.com so that you can just stay in touch with me as World Watercolor Month comes to an end. Thanks so much for watching this. I hope you enjoyed this little video journal of my trip. And there's so much more I could tell you. I didn't get to tell you about the part where I saw a bear. I didn't get to take you to the other places we visited on the island to paint. And so there's more to share, and I'm sure some of it will be popping up on my Instagram account as well over the next few weeks. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.